I'm stoked for this because we have this gentleman on basically before every single draft. He's usually all over it. I want to say you probably hit it like a 75-80% clip, Connor Rogers, which, by the way, would get you into the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Would get you into any Hall of Fame known to man. You're in our draft Hall of Fame. We're a couple of days out. You feel like you're ready?
I'm ready, dude. Today, on Sunday this morning, I put player 332 on the big board. Done. That's it. Eventually, you just get to the finish line. You're out of gas. The gas tank hits you. I'm fired up, man. This one's going to be a lot of fun because it's a little more difficult to predict, I think, than usual.
Okay, I like that. Obviously, locally, there's a lot of intrigue.
Yeah.
There's even more intrigue based upon what the Giants did on Saturday. Not the idea that Dexter Lawrence got traded, because if you read the tea leaves, you kind of got a sense that was going to happen. Connor, I didn't think they were getting a top 10 pick. And for somebody that is in the draft business like you are, how much did that totally change the landscape saying, oh, smokes, Giants now all of a sudden aren't just picking at 5, they're picking at 10 too?
Ironically, it changed it where at least for me, I find the Giants a little easier to figure out than the Bengals. I find the Bengals a very difficult team to do mock drafts for. And I thought 10 was a really weird spot in this draft where it's hard, obviously, to figure out if any of the blue chip guys will make it to that slot. To start from the beginning, though, I was surprised at first when the trade came through. I was thinking, maybe they can get the Bears' 25th overall pick or something along the lines of that. But then you think about it, and the Bengals are the perfect team, of course. How quickly we forget how good Dexter Lawrence is. That's the thing. He's that special of a player. When he's right, he could be in the Defensive Player of the Year category. And this draft is truly not as strong as your typical draft, where the Bengals might have been sitting there and been like, we don't know if our guys are going to make it here to 10. We know Dexter Lawrence is great. We have Joe Burrow. Let's try to win. And for the Giants to me, and I know there's so much smoke around this that people are maybe, starting to not believe it. I think they love Jordan Tyson, and I've heard that well before the workout. And then you look at Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, they're identity guys for your defense. And Harbaugh wants that identity guy for his defense, a stabilizer, kind of a leader, reliable, and plays fast. So I look at those three guys and go, man, if the Giants walk out of this thing with a combination of Tyson and Styles or Tyson and Downs, they're going to be feeling really, really good about what they're getting for next year, not even in the long haul.
Okay, we'll circle back to Tyson. I'm glad you mentioned the two studs out of Ohio State with the 5th pick, because to me, CR, that's where they have to go.
Sure.
Downs, listen, I think is a guy that can plug and play immediately in your defense, and he's not quite Kyle Hamilton, but you get what Harbaugh would be going for as far as that Swiss Army knife. Is there a case to be made, though, Sonny Styles, dare I say, should be ahead of Caleb Downs, or is that a coin flip?
Well, here's the problem. Downs, for me, is the number 2 player in this draft, only behind Jeremiah Love. So by theory of that, the pick should be Downs. The Giants, let's not forget, now Dexter Lawrence isn't on this team. And this run defense wasn't very good last year with him. So does that place a premium on the guy that plays in the front 7, like Sonny Styles, at 5, where Downs, he does great work really at all 3 levels of the field. He can play any safety role, and he is a good run defender. But do they look at it and go, we need to be as strong as possible up front, which Harbaugh spoke about that on both sides of the ball. And we think Styles is going to bring that element to our team. So that's what I find. I find it very difficult to break apart which one, if they have the option. And then this brings in the combo. Do you just assume you're getting Jordan Tyson at 10? Because I think that's a very dangerous assumption. Where, yeah, it makes sense to take Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles at 5 if they're there, because they are guys that they're worthy of that pick in this draft. But I would imagine the Browns, who want a wide receiver, the Chiefs, who like wide receivers, maybe the Saints, we'll see. They could all be in play for Jordan Tyson. So then you're sitting there and go, okay, we got Downs or Styles at 5, but then our guy didn't make it at 10. Now what do we do? Could they look offensive line? That's the more tricky. It's not the players to me. The players I highlight for the Giants, Downs, Styles, and Tyson, I feel good about that. The problem is, what is the order of how you do it, and how do you find a way to walk away with 2 of those 3 guys? That's more tricky in this draft.
Interesting. Is there a world, Connor, where the Giants could end up with the 2 defensive studs at 5 and 10? Or is that asking a lot?
They could do it if you took Styles and you just believed, hey, the safety is going to make it to 10. We feel better about that. I don't know if he does. They could do it. I would have legitimate concerns about this offense, though. I mean, I don't love the line after they didn't get a guard in free agency. Malik Neighbors is amazing, but he's coming back from injury, where, you're still going to need a number 2 pass catcher, and I think they want Isaiah Likely to be that as well. So that's a tricky one. I would be a little worried because let's not forget, this thing is about Jackson Dart. I know these months it's been about Harbaugh because it's a great get for the Giants. But they got a really talented quarterback that they need to keep healthy and confident. And because when he was confident last year, I thought he was awesome. So I wouldn't do that if I was them. One of the 2 picks has to be dedicated to the offensive side of the ball.
Okay, totally fair. And I'm glad that you brought up Tyson and wide receiver because, listen, there's an argument that some teams say, hey, listen, we don't want to put a ton of resources as far as premium first-round pick, big money contracts into 2 wide receivers.
Sure.
We want to go and kind of find that second guy, mid-rounds, bargain, etc. The problem is Malik Neighbors doesn't play, Connor. I love him. He's an amazing talent.
Yeah.
Each of the last 2 years, he blows out the knee. We're watching it against the Chargers in Jackson Dart's first start. And even his outstanding rookie year, he's in and out of the lineup. He's in and out of the lineup. He's in and out of the lineup. Therefore, I don't want to mess around. To your point, hey, I got a quarterback. We want to grow. We want to nurture. We want to develop. We got to make sure he's got as much talent on offense as humanly possible. So that's where Tyson, compared to the other receivers, really makes sense.
Yeah, well, here's the problem, though, is that Tyson's number 1 concern is health, right? That's the problem here, is that if your argument is, hey, we need that next guy because our guy is hurt all the time, I love Jordan Tyson. I think he's the best wide receiver in this class, but, a couple years, the torn ACL, the broken collarbone, I believe, after 24, and then the hamstring at the end of this year. So do you just go, we're just going for the ceiling with these guys? And that makes you wonder, would the Giants be a team that also likes Carnell Tate, who was a little banged up this year as well, but a different kind of player? So that's where it gets really, really interesting for me with them. But I think prioritizing another big-time pass catcher for this offense is very, very important for the reasons you said, for the fact that Malik Neighbors gets injured, but also then the fact that, hey, man, you need as much weapons as you can in this offense. That's just the name of the game right now.
So if you had to rank these 3 receivers, Tyson, Tate, Lemon, what's your order?
For me, it's Tyson, Tate, Omar Cooper, Lemon.
Ooh, okay. You're in on Omar Cooper, who
Yeah.
we'll get to momentarily, because your football team has 2 first-round picks, and maybe one of them will end up going and becoming a wide receiver. One more on the Giants. Is there a world where they go and take Jeremiah Love? Listen, Connor, I saw him at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He could have ran for 500 yards against Syracuse. They pulled him after the first quarter. I mean, that was one of the all-time disgraces I've ever seen. He's amazing. But my feeling is you have so many needs on this team. I like where you're at running back. And, yeah, maybe this is me talking with some Saquon PTSD, but that's fine. I don't think the Giants are a ready-made championship roster. Dude, I can't take a running back in the top 5 picks. I just can't do it.
I don't think it's a luxury that they can afford right now. And this is the combo I get all the time from the teams in the top 10 is Jeremiah Love. What's not to love, man? I think he's the best player in the draft. But is it a luxury that you can afford when you look at the state of your roster? And you hear Arizona connected to him at 3. You hear Tennessee connected to him at 4. There's whispers of the Giants at 5. I don't know if he makes it there, but if he did, I do wonder, JJ, if there's just too many other pressing needs for them, even with Scatterbo coming back from serious injury, that they're like, hey, we just got to round out the rest of our roster. We just can't afford that kind of luxury. So I don't think so. I would still consider the Styles, Downs, Tyson bucket the trio to keep an eye on for the Giants.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that you've probably gotten 10 zillion times because you do all your Badlands stuff. Everyone identifies you with the SNY. You're part of the Jet fabric, clearly, Connor. So I'm sorry I have to ask you for the 10 zillion time. Is it Reese or is it Bailey? I'm actually going to phrase it differently for you.
Okay.
If you're making the pick, Connor Rogers is given the GM job, or he's sitting next to Muji, and Muji says to him, CR, whatever you say, I'm doing, man. Who's the pick?
I think the answer to both sides of it is Arvell Reese, I think, for me. I didn't waver when we had that 72-hour span of a lot of big insiders bringing up Bailey and the markets, which are very volatile, kind of swinging. And listen, David Bailey's a good player. He can get after it off the edge. He's a guy that finishes plays with his kind of burst. But with Arvell Reese, you look at what they did in free agency and how this thing is set up now in the front. Like, he's a guy you just drop down into that front seven. And at 20 years old, there's a world where by the time we get through training camp in July, like, he's 250 pounds already. And he's got the big, heavy hands to play on the edge. He's a great athlete. Their front seven was an abomination for most of last year. I think they've really lost confidence in Jamie and Sherwood at off-ball linebacker. They brought in DeMario Davis as a veteran. I think Arvell here, my pitch would be, and I feel like it might be the same for the Jets, would be that you kind of look at, I don't think he's the same player, but in terms of the trajectory and usage, what Dallas did with Micah year one was a lot of off-ball. People forget that. And he eventually blossomed on the edge. But with Arvell, you can move him around in different alignments in this front seven. And he's just an amazing talent that I find it hard to believe they're willing to pass on what he can become. He's already a really good player, and people don't say that enough about Arvell Reese, but he could become a superstar for a defense that does not have enough difference makers after they traded Sauce and Quinnen.
Is the baby Micah comparison fair?
No, it's dangerous because Micah is...
Micah's Micah, correct.
He's Micah. Like, there's players in a bucket of their own. Him, Myles Garrett, you think of either that quarterback, Lamar Jackson, that when players come through the draft, you just can't replicate that kind of player very often. But is there a world where Reese maybe doesn't have the same explosive takeoff or bend as Micah, but has heavier hands and is a really, really effective player just in different ways? Then yeah, and I think, once again, the developmental path is not that wildly different where I think that's why the conversation comes up so often.
Okay, that's pick number one. Pick number two, a variety of different ways you can go. I'm of the mindset, Connor, if they can get a wide receiver to put alongside Garrett Wilson.
You have to.
You got to do it, right? So, obviously, where the Jets are picking, a lot is going to be dictated on what these teams in front of them do. But do you get the sense there's a certain receiver on the board the Jets are going to move up to go and get him, or you think they kind of want to sit tight right where they're at to maybe, dare I say, go get that guy?
I do wonder if they are interested in moving up because it's not that far to go up. And then you have the fact that, say you used pick 44 with 16 to go up, you could trade out of 33 and try to get a pick back. So it all balances out. I think they were a team that before teams felt better about Tyson's health, they were praying he'd make it to them at 16, and it's just not going to happen. I wonder about Lemon because he's small, and I think they just want to become a bigger physical football team, and I don't know if Lemon's there at 16 anyway. Carnell Tate, I could see a world where they'd want to move up for him or Tyson, but, how early does he go? If they stay, there's still a debate between Omar Cooper and Denzel Boston then, even if the wide receivers go in front of them. Like what Cooper does with the ball in his hands, Boston, that big perimeter blocker that plays above the rim. The league likes Boston better than the general public and consensus. And to me, it's just wide receiver at 16 makes so much sense for this team with 5 different players in the running.
So if they don't go wide receiver, what are they doing with that second first-round pick?
Venga Ioane, the guard from Penn State, would be in play, in my opinion. He's just as pro-ready as they come. He's perfect in pass protection. I know they signed Dylan Parham to a short-term deal, but I think Venga would win a job at a camp. I mean, could they surprise you and take a safety like Dylan Thieneman? I don't know if Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, makes it a 16. He'd be interesting.
What do you think of him, Connor? Because obviously there are teams. Hey, Chiefs, he could be the successor to Travis Kelce. Miami, hey, you want to get a weapon for Malik Willis and let him use the tight end in the middle of the field. Is he a guy you think's a game changer, or being a little overvalued?
No, he can be. He can be. He's a special athlete. He's got the right demeanor as a blocker, even though he's not a bigger guy. But he's somebody that you definitely look at the landing spot and go, like, they'll have the right plan for him, or they're the right team for him. Baltimore at 14, they're just a team that you look at how he'd be able to play with Lamar and him be able to kind of be used as this move blocker and give them a guy that could run the seam with speed and get over the top of linebackers and make plays above safeties. Now, would you want him in a infrastructure that is kind of growing? Like, the Jets' infrastructure on offense is not established. You look at a Baltimore, San Francisco, a Philadelphia, 3 places that make a lot of sense for Sadiq. You feel good about their infrastructure offensively. So he's a freaky player. There's not a lot of guys that come around like him. maybe not Vernon Davis level, but like in a pretty weird bucket of how special of an athlete he is, that he's a first rounder to me. But he's one of those guys that like you really hope he ends up in the right place.
Okay, quarterback. Listen, most Jet fans are of the mindset they're thinking next year. Totally get it.
Yeah.
All the first-round picks, everybody's raving about the quarterback class. You see a world where Ty Simpson is the pick in the early part of the second round, or is it more likely the Jets are looking, hey, mid-rounds, maybe it's Beck, maybe it's Aller, maybe it's the LSU kid, and it's like, hey, we're going to take our flyer later in the draft.
Right.
That's how we're going to go get a quarterback. It doesn't seem like the smoke that was maybe there a month ago is there for Simpson. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. If a team loves Ty Simpson in the first round, they've done a really good job disguising it, is how I would say. The three teams you always kind of circle 2 months ago throughout this process, they're like, okay, the Jets, Cardinals, and Steelers. I don't hear first-round love for them. Arizona's picking at 3. He's not going third. The Steelers, I don't hear a lot of connection to, so they've hit it well if they're taking him. And I don't get the sense the Jets are considering him at 16. And then you wonder, like you think of Frank Reich, bigger pocket passing quarterbacks you think he would like. But Simpson, what the league kills him on is that he's small. And he got hurt the second half of the year and played through it, probably because he's a smaller quarterback. So that's the issue where he's a weird fit with the Jets. Maybe they would just feel like, hey, he's got enough talent, we got to take the flyer. But you need to be careful arguing pick 33 is a flyer. The Jets aren't good enough to just burn pick 33.
I totally agree. They need a player.
They need a
good player.
So I would just be surprised if Ty Simpson's a Jet after the draft. I would. Going back to your original point, like at 103 or 140, did they just take a Carson Beck or a Drew Aller and just go, hey, which are very different. Beck, to me, I think he's going to have a nice long career as a backup and not really evolve beyond that, where Aller could be out of the league in 3 years because he's so raw, but he's got a lot of talent. So that's one to me where the Jets are in a weird place where, like, no matter what they do at quarterback in this draft, it's hard to imagine it's going to be very inspiring.
All right, this is my final one for you. I love doing this every year. Forget about the loves and the downs. We get it. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out those guys are going to be really good players. I like first round. Maybe it's first 2 rounds. This is what we call the Connor Rogers plant the flag. Who is like the Connor Rogers planting the flag? I'm all in on this guy. He's going to be a big-time player, or he's going to have a double-digit NFL career. You know, like, who is the man-crush, plant-the-flag, Connor Rogers guy in this draft?
Give me Caden McDonald from Ohio State, the big nose tackle. He's someone to me that I think people are just bored with him. Sure, he doesn't have great pass rush production. He's an absolute dominant player against the run. Why do you think Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs are running around like maniacs? They had a 330-pound nose tackle in front of them, taking up 2 to 3 bodies all the time. He doesn't get consistent first-round love, or maybe the back end of round 1. He's a first-round player for me all day. I just think that in a league that all we talk about when we get to November and December is who's stopping the run and forcing teams into bad third-down situations. Like, these are the kind of players that get you to that destination, and people just overlook them in the spring every single year.
Connor, you're a rock star. Thanks for a few minutes. I'm not going to do it to you, but I hope you're enjoying the Devin Williams experience.
Oh, yeah. You barely see him pitch. What experience? Yeah, you get to see him like once every 8 days.
I'll tell you, big-time situations. Hide the women and children. I lived it. I saw it. And I bet the Mets today. So, again.
Yeah, real fun. We had it on while we were doing this, and
I tried not spoiling it. I'm like, you got.
No, I got it on below. All you could do is
you're like me. We know how to multitask. If you work in a business long enough, you have to be able to multitask, right?
All I could do is laugh at this point. What else can you do? I'm ready for the draft.
Well, you have the draft. Joe will kind of talk you off the ledge potentially. But more importantly, dude, best of luck. You got a big event coming for you and your wife, man. Dude, it's the best. A year already, dude.
That's crazy.
Fast. Remember, you can hear it from 10 zillion people. It goes fast. That's all I'll say, CR.
I can't wait. JJ, I appreciate you, brother.
The great Connor Rogers. Thanks, big guy.